Belfast is the capital of Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is part of the UK and uses the British pound. I love Belfast. It's historic, gritty, industrial, while still boasting a surprising amount of nature. It was a major filming spot for Game of Thrones, has great nightlife, and was where the Titanic was built. Its troubled history makes its current peacefulness all the more impressive. Come with us as we discover Belfast. Belfast isn't normally a place I would think of when I think of beautiful architecture, but it does contain an interesting mix of old and new structures. The Belfast Castle Estate, Cathedral, and City Hall, the Hillsborough Castle and Gardens, and the Stormont Parliament buildings are beautiful and worth checking out. Cathedral Quarter contains the Belfast Cathedral, aka St. Anne's Cathedral, and the Merchant Hotel. We liked hanging out at Belfast City Hall because the building itself is beautiful and it was surrounded by gardens, markets, and other beautiful buildings. You can get guided tours through City Hall every day of the week. There are even exhibitions and museums. You can check out the Titanic Memorial Garden or light displays at night. Links are in the description below. The Hillsborough and Belmont Castles and Stormont Parliament were too far away for us to walk, so we didn't see them. It's best to drive to those locations. Speaking of unique architecture, the Titanic Museum boasts a beautiful modern building. We visited the Titanic Museum, dock, and exhibit and purchased a ticket that came with the ability to tour the HMS Caroline. The HMS Caroline is the boat that brought passengers to the Titanic. You can buy tickets on site. You don't have to buy them online ahead of time. The exhibit is very educational and takes you through the history of the city of Belfast and the construction of the Titanic. It also boasts some lovely views. Links in the description below. The Black Cab tour was the dark highlight of our trip, and that's saying a lot considering we toured the construction of the Titanic. The Troubles were an ethno-nationalist conflict that mainly occurred in Northern Ireland and lasted for about 30 years, from the late 1960s to 1998. Northern Ireland is a chunk of the northeast corner of an island that is mainly inhabited by Irish people. Many British lived there, though, and Great Britain legally made it part of the UK. But many Irish who lived there thought it should be part of the Republic of Ireland. More than 3,500 people were killed and more than 45,000 were injured during the Troubles. The Troubles were not a religious conflict, but the British who lived in Northern Ireland were mainly Protestant and formed a large part of the government in Northern Ireland. The Irish who lived in Northern Ireland were mainly Catholic and did not have as much political power. That is why there are Protestant and Catholic neighborhoods until this day in Belfast. Many are surrounded by walls with gates. The gates are locked at night because the threat of violence remains. We actually got to see a gate being locked during our tour. Let me explain. A local cab driver in an old-fashioned cab will drive you through residential areas, especially working-class neighborhoods that are still divided. The Peace Wall, and provide mural explanations. Our cab driver took us to the locations where bombs killed both Protestants and Catholics. Memorials mark the spot of the explosions and often showcase pictures and names of victims. Plaques explain what happened. Although on our tour, we didn't need to read the plaques because our cab driver did such a good job detailing the history. It was powerful and sobering. The murals depict Ireland and Northern Ireland's solidarity with movements around the world. Okay, on to much happier topics. Belfast actually has a pretty good food scene. We didn't get to experience the food scene much because our nephew prefers steak, french fries, Coke, and hamburgers. But Belfast is a good place for those things too. The The Duke of York is a pub in Cathedral Quarter, but it's interesting to look at and has food, and there are other bars around it that are really cool. You can get a good sit-down breakfast at St. George's Market, check out Suki Tea, and SD Bells. SD Bells is Ireland's oldest coffee roaster. The aforementioned Merchant Hotel has a variety of dining options, including the Cloth Ear, which we tried out and loved. The Cloth Ear is in a beautiful building and is a beautiful bar. It was here that we decided to try an Irish whiskey. Well, we tried a whiskey. Our 18-year-old nephew had a Coke. We asked the bartender for a recommendation and he gave us this to try. It was really good. The Belfast Castle has a good restaurant and coffee shop that seems like they would be quite an experience. And City Hall also has a good coffee shop. The Crown Liquor Saloon is great even if you just want to look at the decor. Also, check out Ox Restaurant. It's a Michelin star restaurant with a water view and has good turbot fish and a wine cave. Okay, so where to stay? Obviously, the Merchant Hotel would be a great but expensive option. The Fitzwilliam Hotel is also 5-star, but more friendly and affordable at $375 per night. The Maryville House is a good option too. It's a little out of the way, southwest of Belfast, but it might be worth it because you get to stay in a Victorian manor and have tea time. We stayed in ETAP Belfast for $187 per night. This is a 2-star budget hotel in the city center that has a queen bed with a bunk bed. This hotel looks really hip and clean. Jury's Inn Belfast should work for a lot of families because the rooms are $270 per night and have 2 beds. Also, 10 Square Hotel is another option that's good for families. It's a 4-star, old-school luxury hotel with rooms that have multiple beds. Links in the description below. And because you stayed until the end, here is your bonus. Shoot bows and arrows during the Winterfell trek from Belfast. Check out the Giant's Causeway, which is a coastal route that's very close to Belfast, as is the Carrick Reid Rope Bridge. There's a great trail on the cliffside too. You can also take the Red Trail for amazing panoramic views. Try McComb's Tours. You can see Sheep's Island, where Games of Thrones is filmed, from the trail. You can also check out the Cushendon Caves and the Dark Hedges, King's Road. Or you can do a Crumlin Road prison tour. There's always the hop-on, hop-off bus. And why not visit the LBT Quarter, especially in June?
So they will open again tomorrow morning.
We're on the Catholic side now.
Yeah. So this is the best time to do the tour because you see them being locked.
It's really special.
So there's only one way in?
Once all these gates are locked, you have to go through the city centre and round.